The night before my wedding, I, Katrina Roberts, received a wedding dress that didn't fit my body. Kevin Blunt, who had been my boyfriend for 7 years, snatched it from my hands with a frown and said indifferently, "It's not for you." The next day, his childhood sweetheart, Lindsay Palmer, tried it on, and it perfectly fitted her. While looking at her with affection, Kevin said to me without even turning his head, "Don't blame her, she just likes wearing beautiful outfits." Then, he didn't even come back home on our wedding night. So, I went to the hospital to abort the fetus in my womb and called the HR from Kevin's competitor, Gill, and accepted their offer. "Rachel, I'll be coming to work next week," I said. After pressing the sending button, I felt relieved. Meanwhile, Kevin hadn't come back home for a whole night and just texted me as if he just discovered that he still had a wife. "Kevin, do you wake up?" Without receiving my reply, he texted me again. "Kevin, Lindsay smeared the wedding dress yesterday. She didn't mean to. Remember to take the dress for dry cleaning when you wake up." As expected, he contacted me for Lindsay. I blacklisted him and called the most renowned divorce lawyer around town, Max Groves. "Do you take a divorce case involving a marriage that just lasts one day?" As soon as I spoke that out, I couldn't help but mock myself, realizing that my 7-year affection for Kevin ended up in embarrassing vain. Max was apparently astonished and could only say, "Sure. Can you tell me the details about your request?" The conversation with the lawyer continued until noon when Kevin, who didn't even take the groom's suit off, cracked the door of my room open. When seeing me, he said nothing but asked with a frown, "Why didn't you reply to my text?" In fact, I anticipated his question, as I always replied to him almost within a second after he texted me. During all these years of our relationship, I could only get a few words from his text reply. The few times he texted me on his own initiative, it was all for Lindsay. Hanging up the phone, I said perfunctorily, "I got up too late to see your messages." Kevin didn't seem to give a damn about my response, and put his legs on the table after sitting beside me. Then, he immersed himself in his cell phone with a hint of a smile. Obviously, he was texted Lindsay. Without even looking up, he ordered, "Can you massage my shoulders? I feel so tight around there." He probably didn't pay attention to what I just said. Tilting my head, I suddenly noticed a kiss mark on his neck and felt so sick. No response from me irritated Kevin as he rubbed the skin between his eyebrows and said, "Are you not going to do what I say forever? Remember, you're an adult, not a kid, so stop being particular about all these trivial matters." And the last half of his speech was interrupted as I stood up. "Tell me which part is tight," I said calmly. Kevin stopped grumbling for a second. He was about to speak something again when he glimpsed the floor mirror opposite the sofa. Seeing my fingers placed near the striking kiss mark on his neck, he bounced up from the sofa as if getting an electric shock. As he stood up unnaturally, Kevin said something to justify his weird behavior. "All right, you don't have to massage me. I brought you lunch. Let me heat it up for you, okay?" After he grabbed his phone and fled into the kitchen, I raised my head and saw my ashen face in the mirror. The pain of abortion still lingered in my body, but he didn't have the slightest clue that our kid had been aborted. Pressing my lips, I clicked on my Instagram and saw a picture enclosed with location information posted by Lindsay. It was taken in an upscale seafood restaurant with a text, "My darling took me to experience a wedding yesterday and took me to enjoy the seafood cuisine. I'm so happy, though it's a little sorry to waste the food as I have a petite appetite." In the photo, Kevin lowered his head to carefully wipe the oil stains from the corners of her mouth. They were as close to each other as newlywed lovebirds. I gave it a thumbs up. There was a burnt smell coming from the kitchen, and Kevin hurriedly served the hot lunch to me. From the screen of his mobile phone, which was not locked yet, I saw the chat box with Lindsay. Looking down, I saw the so-called lunch he brought me with some shrimp, obviously the leftovers from his last meal. So I stood up and poured this dish into the trash bin. My reaction gave him an excuse to vent all his dissatisfaction with me today as he smacked his tongue and said, "I have picked out the burnt ones and threw them away, so what do you mean with that goddamn face? I've given you the wedding you longed for. What else on earth do you want? I hate your petty attitude. There's nothing between Lindsay and me." As I looked at him, I found his excuses more and more hilarious. He must have known I gave a thumbs up at Lindsay's Instagram. Without a doubt, she told him about that. What a cute couple they were. I put the plate back on the table and said calmly, "Don't overthink. I'm just allergic to seafood." Kevin was stunned and looked a little panicked. He said with a trace of guilt, "Sorry, I forgot. I'll take you on a honeymoon to make it up when our marriage leave is granted." I didn't say anything. Before, whenever I begged him to take me to travel, he would always decline and accuse me of ignoring how busy he was at work. Instead, he used every public holiday to take Lindsay to all the places she wanted to visit. After finding it out in the past, I questioned him about the pictures Lindsay posted on Instagram with tears, only to get his impatient reply, "Lindsay is a child. Do you really have to dwell on every single thing with her?" The wedding yesterday couldn't be held if I hadn't almost knelt in front of him. All the guests could see that I was not the heroine of that wedding. In the past, I would have made a fuss, demanding an explanation from him with wails. But now, all that remained in my heart was indifference. After thinking about what I had done in the past, I found myself incredibly stupid. Instead of agreeing with his proposal, I unlocked my phone and saw a message from Rachel. "Welcome to our company. You can start work anytime you want in the next 2 weeks." I couldn't help but smile and immediately replied, "Okay, I'll be there next Monday." Noticing the bright smile on my face, Kevin asked with displeasure, "What are you talking about so happily?" I locked my phone and said perfunctorily, "Nothing." Unexpectedly, he snatched my phone and tried to unlock it, but failed after trying several patterns of the password. He couldn't help frowning deeper. That was because all the passwords for all my software used to be his birthday. The message I didn't reply to, along with my abnormal attitude to him, elicited Kevin to become suspicious. He cast my phone on the sofa and tried to ask casually, "Why did you change the password?" Picking up the phone, I replied calmly, Nothing particular. I just wanted to change it. Kevin opened his mouth but eventually said nothing. Then I took me to dinner at night. As I opened the door of the passenger seat, a cute memo was attached to it. It said, "The exclusive seat to Princess Lindsay." I was about to slam the door when Kevin grabbed my wrist and explained with an embarrassed face, "Lindsay put it there for fun. You can tear it off if you don't like it." His behavior was hilarious to me. If he had really cared about what I would feel after seeing this memo, he wouldn't have allowed Lindsay to put something so provocative here in the very first place. All in all, he preferred Lindsay rather than me. I shrugged indifferently to show it didn't matter to me, and walked around him to the back seat. However, as soon as I sat down, I felt something hard against my butt. Then I extended my hand and retrieved it. Inside the circle of the diamond ring was an abbreviated name, L.P., meticulously carved. I knew it was Lindsay's name. Before I could take a closer look, Kevin hurriedly stretched out to grab it. "Lindsay must have dropped it on my car. I'll bring it to her at the company tomorrow." As he said that, Kevin observed my expression with evasive eyes to see if I was upset. My calm face relieved his misgivings. I could see it was the bestseller of a renowned wedding ring brand, which allowed a man only to purchase one ring with his ID. The brand hyped the sense of ceremony of eternal love and loyalty everywhere before, and this concept deeply attracted me. However, when I pulled together the courage to ask to buy the rings, Kevin responded to me with only mockery. "You can't see the trap of formalistic consumption? You are so dumb and hopeless." Burying the grievances deep in my heart, I comforted myself that he was just an over-pragmatic man. Even at the wedding, I wore the plain ring he bought from a roadside stall a few years ago. Now, I discovered that I did have a sense of ceremony. He just preferred to enjoy it with someone else. I could imagine the passionate sex in the back seat that was so wild as to make Lindsay drop the ring, but it didn't matter to me anymore. During the dinner, Kevin noticed that I took off our wedding ring when he finally shunned his eyes from his cell phone screen. As expected, he questioned me about that, and I replied indifferently without even raising my head. "Oh, I must have lost it. It's nothing important anyway, isn't it?" Hearing this, Kevin locked his phone with a troubled face. The thought that I might mind the ring in the back seat drove him to explain, "Lindsay begged me to buy her that ring when we went out purchasing before. I couldn't break her heart, right?" I looked up and said with confusion, "And may I know what it has to do with me?" The totally different attitude he adopted for me and Lindsay triggered millions of fusses between the two of us. His initial indifference and indiscriminate insults later on made me see through this scumbag. Now, I just felt like he was interrupting my meal. After dinner, Kevin insisted on taking me to a mall to choose a new ring. Despite my repeated rejection, he still held on to buying me a new one. While I sat in his car and killed my time by viewing the street, the sky thundered. The next second, it started raining cats and dogs. That was when Kevin's phone rang. The ringtone did not suit his style at all. Obviously, Lindsay set that as the particular ring of her calls, which reminded me that last month, he yelled at me just because I accidentally touched his phone. I was 2 months pregnant at that time when he shoved me to the ground. A sharp pain struck my womb, and I almost had a miscarriage. Facing my pain, Kevin slammed the door and went out to take Lindsay to buy the snack she suddenly wanted to eat. Recalling the past, I couldn't help but clench my fists. As expected, Lindsay's cry broke out from his cell phone receiver. "Kevin, it's thundering. I'm so scared at home alone. Can you come to my place?" she said. He immediately pulled over and said, out of an eagerness to be there with Lindsay without feeling sorry for me at all, "I have something urgent to do now. It is not far from the mall here. Just select the ring you like yourself." I was left in the heavy rain. Looking at the road signs, I found the closest mall from here was a kilometer away. Then, I received a message reminding me to receive the money Kevin transferred to me for the ring. With a sneer, I transferred the money back to him and took a taxi home. The moment I reached home, I still drenched, received the text that Lindsay sent me by mistake.